Coming to you live, it's the Auto Hub Show with Ian and Jeff. Here we go.
So what would your dealership feel like if your entire sales staff was literally on fire, your sales and service staff? They were nonstop all over social media, completely dominating your marketplace. They could do it in 30 days or less and then continue their education to do it for an entire 6 months or a year. You literally would completely take over the entire marketplace and no one would be able to compete with you. And that's what we can do for you. So when you're walking around your community, whether you're at local restaurants or you're going to the gym, you don't want to be bothered? Fine, you won't be bothered. But a lot of people will walk up to you and say, oh my God, I love your social media. Your staff is amazing. We love what you're doing in the community. We want to come buy a car from you. We want to get an oil change at your dealership. Your community is absolutely going to love you. And it doesn't matter what platform you're on. You could be on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. You will literally be all over the place. I've traveled all over North America. I've trained Toyota. I've trained Nissan. I've been to driving sales. I've been to Women in Auto. I get hired as a speaker for conferences at universities all over the country. And I can help change the trajectory of your dealership right now. If you click on the link, you can sign up for our webinar. It's live with me, and you'll learn the 7 strategies that you need at your dealership in order to see that success.
Hi, everyone. This is Paul Brobson, the CEO over at Trusted Sale. And if you don't know Larry Feldman at Career Changers, boy, are you missing out. Now, what are you missing, you might ask? Well, for starters, you're missing the world's best trainer. But seriously, what makes Larry a great trainer is how engaged he keeps his audience. I was at a store recently while Larry was conducting training. And let me tell you, nobody wanted to leave that room. I mean, even when they needed a bio break, they wanted to stick around and hear what Larry had to say. The great late Jim Valvano, who said, to me, there are 3 things everyone should try to do every day. Number 1 is laugh. Number 2 is think. Spend some time in thought every day. And number 3, you should have your emotions move you to tears. If you laugh, think, and cry, that's a heck of a day. Well, I can tell you, Larry's going to make you laugh. He's going to make you think. And yeah, every once in a while, he's going to make you shed a tear or 2. But one thing I can say, it's a heck of a day when Larry comes to visit. But wait, there's more. There is? Yeah. Not only is Larry a great trainer, but he's also one hell of a recruiter. So if you need people in your dealership, and I mean anyone, you need technicians, salespeople, managers, BDC agents, whatever you need, Larry can get you staffed right with the right people and do it fast.
Always to improve. Every month we want to improve better on what we did the month before, maybe the year before. It's about how fast we can get the cars done with quality work to get it to the front line, because that's where we make our money. And the bottom line is the longer it takes, the more money you spend. We want to get it down as low as possible. Right now, like I said, we're in a great stage. We're at 4.5 days. In recon, we want to know how quickly we can get the cars out of the recon process and to the front line. The average days in recon and then the time to line are the most important things that we look for. I'm Mike Burrell. I'm Service Director at JM Lexus.
And good morning. So now we're going into our disclaimer. Go ahead, Jeff.
Good morning, all. I don't know if you guys have it, but I have multiple screens on Ian's share, so our apologies. If you don't have it, I know nothing about it. So, of course, the views and opinions expressed today are those of our guests and not necessarily that of the Auto Hub show, but so far, the exception of a few times we're bang on. So, if you want to read our disclaimer, please check it on the website. And yeah. Good morning.
Yeah, and I didn't have any books today because it was a secret topic. So this is the most difficult one-day-year job in the world, our panel show. So go ahead, Jeff. We're going to be at some shows coming up. That's where they're coming up. Soda Colin won't be there, but Larry will be there. So if you're going, definitely make sure to say hi to Larry and other people that we know. Go ahead, Jeff.
Larry, he's not growing a beard to be like the other two. I don't understand why. Um, so the topic today, which is a big secret, all of you on our panel here, and I thank you for being on this panel. We want to make things better for everybody, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to drag them into things kicking and screaming. And everybody here today is actually in the business of providing a product or service to dealers to make it better. And many of you have expressed a frustration in getting a wall. So the topic today is, the secret topic is, ta-da! So, how to avoid the inevitable downturn in fortune and why it will be different this time. So, it's interesting. Peter, of course, and I have talked, and everybody here has talked about the fact that, the gravy train is kind of running downhill with the dead pedal on and going faster and faster and better and better. There's no kids on this program, so we've all been through downturns numerous times. But we're going to put it out to the entire panel, and at the end of this, we'd like to formulate a 1 or 2 sentence recommendation to dealers, and we can send it to them. We can do whatever. People can print it, just to tell them how we're going to avoid that, because we've all been talking about it. And unfortunately, this was supposed to happen a year and a half ago. Everything's supposed to return to normal, and still crazy with all sorts of crazy stuff. So we'll go with the order of who logged in first, and today it was, I believe, Doug. So Doug, if you introduce yourself, and it might have been John, I don't remember.
I think it was John.
Okay, John. All right, John, introduce yourself and just a very brief opinion on the topic.
All right. Well, I mean, my name is on the screen, so is it really necessary for me to introduce myself? But hi, I'm John Latka from Atlantic, Canada. And, in terms of the topic, we're talking about downturns. The real downturn, if there is going to be one, really hasn't happened yet. In talking with some of the dealerships that I work with and have worked with, gross profits per unit haven't really spiraled down. To give you an example, most recently, a dealer 20 group announced the average gross profit per unit, new and used, front and back end, and it came in just hovering under $5,000 per unit. And this was very recently. So dealers that are making that kind of money, I mean, are they really looking for help to improve or to get ready for what may be coming, which in the opinion of many is a bit of a downturn? Apparently there will be more vehicles landing within 6 to 8 months. One of my peers was told by a dealer group that he works with to get ready for being busy in the next 6 to 8 months. Where's it going to go? Do we really know?
Yeah, well, thank you. Very interesting, some of the stuff that's going on. So they're $5,000 a unit gross. Many brands, there's very little on-ground inventory, so they're not paying anything for flooring, and they're getting flooring credit, which they're making, that's going directly into the boat fund. But it's interesting. One of the interesting tactics out here, and I ran into this the other day in competition against a big dealer on a used car, is they're advertising finance price, but they're not saying it's a finance price. So if you're not financing, and that's finance and trade price, by the way. If you're not trading and not financing, it's higher. Interesting, huh? Next, Doug. Doug, what's your opinion on the topic? Of course, you don't need introduction. You're famous.
Oh, I don't know if I'd say I'm famous, but Doug Reeves with A to Z Sync right here. I see that there's four factors that are actually going to be uh, causing this loss of fortune. One is the EVs coming in. Dealers have like a 90-day supply of EVs. They keep throwing more at them, but customer acceptance for them isn't matching what they're having to stock. I think that's going to put some financial pressure on them, as well as just a general lack of knowledge about how to sell an EV and how to educate a customer. Obviously, the interest rates are starting to show their teeth. Customers are holding back. The payments of yesteryear are gone, and we're seeing that both in some demand, but also in F&I productivity. We're seeing F&I starting to drop again. I think the strike will have an effect, especially if it keeps going longer. I think even though it's just the big three, I think that there will be ripple effects across all the makes and models as customers kind of trying to figure out what that means to them. And then that ugly two-word turnover is back. And salespeople that made a ton of money in the past aren't going to be making it now. Managers, the same thing. And now there's going to be this shuffling of people and trying to get skill sets up. So I think that those four factors are definitely going to be affecting it. And it's a question of the dealers, do they know how to deal with this? And, that's the $1,000,000 question.
Perfect, thank you very much. And next, our good friend who also does not need introduction, Peter Smith.
Thanks, Jeff. I personally believe we're entering into the perfect storm. And if we remember the movie, it was when three storm fronts converged on each other and created the massive storm that took down the Andrea Vale. The first storm front was the pandemic. We experienced first a closure of our businesses, and then a massive surge, like a hurricane surge, on our sales and our profitability. It just rose like crazy. It was because there was no inventory, there was nothing, and people made gobs of money. The second part of the storm is the post-pandemic. And that's when the tide receded, and turnover started increasing, time on lot started increasing, day supply started increasing, everyone started increasing, and it started changing. Now we have the strike coming back as the dead cat bounced, and it's going to affect the domestics, but it's also showing to affect the imports that have plants in North America. In fact, ZF just announced that they're effectively being affected by the strike, and it's going to affect the transmission plant for the Mercedes trucks in Tuscaloosa. So it's just this massive storm swirling around the industry, and then we look at all the things that have been mentioned, the staffing, the interest rates, the payments. Cox just put out a issue that's saying it takes 46 weeks of savings to buy a car now. It's unaffordable to have a car. The average payment is well over $800 now. It's a huge problem, and we have to address it moving forward. And that's
good point. Interesting, I saw a post the other day about leasing, and I'm not sure if it was you or Ian that posted it, but I firmly believe anybody I talk to right now that's looking at an EV, I tell them lease it. Because frankly, also technology will be another thing, which isn't our topic today, but in 3 years, the cars today are going to be like, I was going to say, oh my God, 250 miles, that's all you can get out of your car? That's terrible. Last but not least is the famous Larry Feldman. Larry, introduce yourself, and if you could, did you see the topic? You turned in late.
I most certainly did. I always like to turn it inward towards music, so I'm going to go to the late great Jerry Butler from Philadelphia. Only the strong survive. It's really simple. Everything economically is screwed up right now. It's way too expensive to buy cars. There's all kinds of problems. The only thing I take issue with, what I heard already, was Doug Reeves, who said turnover is a dirty word. Not in my house. It's a we love turnover.
Right.
my solutions are simple. First of all, and this should have happened way before and 30 years ago, and every day, let's focus on service and fixed operations and keep the people in it. If they can't afford to buy a new car, they certainly are going to need to keep the car they have running. And that's something that always should have been emphasized and always should have been worked on. And this too shall pass. People are still, not everybody's going to walk where they need to go. So we have to be more sensitive and more dialed in with the back end of our stores, which we always should have been anyway. And just retrench, because anybody that didn't realize that at some point the economics were going to shift, the supply and demand shifted, was ridiculous. The only thing I guess maybe was impossible to see was just how crazy the interest rates would be and what inflation would do to everything in the world, particularly our market. But I think if we take a step back and we remember, the gas prices a zillion years ago and the housing meltdown in 2008, 2009, cars for cash for clunkers, take a few minutes, retrench, dial in with your people about what a great opportunity this is. It's still one of the only places you cannot have a college degree and make $100,000 and advance rapidly. Focus on tying in the front end with the back end. I think we'll be fine. Where there'll be some pain, you'd be foolish not to predict that. But if we're smart, we work together, we'll get through it.
I think that's a great point. I think closing ranks really makes a lot of sense as far as getting your house in order. Take care of what you have already. Don't worry about what you're going to get, but take care of what you have and capitalize on the customers that have been loyal to you thus far. And I would throw it out. I'm curious how you guys view how the OEM and the dealers can finally work together in concert with this. And is there things that together the two entities can do?
But we could have had that same topic off your comment 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and 40 years ago, because it always seems like the OEMs need us and we need the OEMs. And it's always disparate, just like service and sales end. And for sure, as to what you said, if we don't take care of who we already have and neglect them, we'll lose them too. Then we'll really have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
If I can just interject here for a second, one of the issues, and understanding the OEM dealership battle, and it's always been there, as Larry said, for the last 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, whatever amount of years you want. Ford has tried 5 times unsuccessfully with an agency model, saying that we're going to take over and we're going to go to an agency because that's what the consumer wants, and failed because they don't understand the consumer. And that's basically the point that I'd like to make is, do we understand the consumer and what the consumer wants? Because that's who our customer is, and that's who we should be satisfying by looking at their needs, their wants, looking at how they want to engage with digital retailing, looking at how they want to engage with in-person contact, future contact, looking at the importance of retention over acquisition. Conquest is not something that we should be actually looking at. We should be looking at the retention of our clients. The costs that are being pushed out there. I've looked at lead generation programs that are just absolutely insane in costing when the dealership doesn't even look at any retention marketing, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. So,
And they don't follow up on the leads anyway.
no, they don't. And as Larry said, we have to look at primarily we have to, and Doug said it, we have to batten down the hatches and prepare for this storm. And one of the aspects is in-house, and we got to look inwards with fixed ops and who our customers are, because those are our greatest conversion base, our customers, not someone else.
but I think we really also got to be looking
Peter,
at leasing.
look at how out of whack budgets are in terms of what they put into the sales end and not the fixed ops end. And now the house is on fire.
Yeah. Well, here's one for you. If you were to audit a dealership and ask them, where are their phone calls going to? Are they going to sales or are they going to service? And I guarantee 70% of their phone calls coming into the dealership are going for fixed ops. At that point, if you looked at their website, it's primarily variable. Why? Why? It doesn't make any fiscal sense if your customer base is on the fixed side, not your variable side, that you primarily promote variable. And it's back to that chicken and egg thing. Who is the most important person in the dealership? Well, the answer is everyone. Everyone is important, and they should be treated equally, and the business should be run as a business, not as a glorified amusement park.
Well, I guess, but Peter, one could say if service is already generating, and I agree with you. I mean, when you call a dealership and you get the dreaded phone tree, it's usually service, parts, then sales. If that is in fact the case, maybe it's because service is already doing, pulling people in. They need to try to generate sales. Maybe that's why the websites dictate that way. But the question I have for John is, John, you painted a rosier picture than the rest of us have. Do you think we're off base, or do you think that? I mean, what's your take on that?
Listen, I don't have a crystal ball. And, what I can say is, for example, for the last year to 2 years, during the pandemic, we were talking about dealerships that new stores going up. They're just going to be smaller and smaller. We're going to have boutique type stores. Well, I got news for you. Look around. What about the $45,000 square foot VW store going out west? Locally here in Kentville, Nova Scotia.
Sorry, pardon me, John. What size did you say?
Was it 45,000 square feet?
Yep.
Oh no, I thought you said, well, we got a 200,000 square foot Toyota store out here. I thought you said 485,000 square feet.
No, sorry. And I thought I had dulcet tones that you could actually listen to and hear. So the point I'm trying to make is that even in small towns, you should see the size of dealerships that have gone up in the last couple of years. It'll blow your mind. So I'm thinking that the manufacturers, the OEMs, they must have sufficient data to be able to substantiate going forward with that type of plan. What do they know that we don't know?
Well, it could be the flip side, John. It could also be, let's bankrupt our dealers so they're more beholden to us.
That could be.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had talks before about tile choice and building the Taj Mahal and all these kind of things. The bigger question, I think, here is really helping those teams on the ground, whether it be sales or service. But on the sales side, if that customer is used to a payment of, say, $400 to $600 a month on their lease or their finance of their vehicle, and maybe they're looking to get another vehicle, how do we deal with that from a dealership point of view, as that customer traditionally financed vehicles, for example, has to then be switched to a lease, or that lease customer who was used to paying, say, 0% or 1.9 is now got to pay 8% on that lease. So I think the bigger question is, how do we retrain the people in sales, but also in service, of course, to say, hey, we're going to have a different conversation with that consumer and say, hey, like, I understand that you're not happy with the 9% interest on this lease, but the reality is it's not just about that. I think what people are going to buy is also going to change. And I think when we look at electric,
if I can add to that,
yeah.
If I can add to that, we're also going to have to develop an ability to handle the customer very quickly here that has a $30,000 car with a $60,000 payout.
Yeah.
And then wants to switch to a lease.
Yeah, we're also seeing lenders. I mean, at least in the Canadian market, I think Bank of Montreal decided to abandon automotive completely. They just think it's too risky. They're just like, we're out.
Well, Bank of Montreal's out. Capital One's out. There's a tremendous amount of lenders that are saying, hey, the failure rate of car payments is exceeding our risk factor.
There's a new lender in New York that's coming out really good. It's called the Family Lenders.
What are you seeing in the U.S. market, Larry? Are you seeing people a little bit shocked with payments? I mean, what as you're training salespeople and other people? I mean, what are you seeing?
I think it's really scary because obviously there's a lot of middle class and lower income people, and when the average car payment is more like $600 and $300, it's really kind of inevitable market shakeup and economic tsunami you never thought you'd see. Everybody that's ever been in the car business knows the drill. They come in and say, I want that $52,000 car and I'll pay $400 a month. And you chuckle and you work through it, you build value. And you find a way to get it to $392 and they're happy and you're happy. But man, when you start getting to $500 or $600, the problem you have is they really can't afford it. A lot of people say they can't afford something, but what they mean is they choose not to. But at $500 or $600 and then throwing car insurance on top of it, there's people that just can't afford to buy it. So yeah, we are seeing it again. That's why, normally I always sit with sales and this and that. That's why I think we have to really retrench in service, because there's going to be a lot more people that really do want a new car, right? I mean, I'm sure Canada is the same as America. We're obsessed with vehicles. We like to get a new car in 20 seconds, much less every 3 years.
Yep.
But if the reality is that people can't afford it, then we have to find a way to get them into service, keep them happy, to keep their cars running, and go from there. Ian, I'm crazy, but I'm not a liar. And I pride myself that I'm, believe it or not, I still sell a few cars every month to people from my store, which I sold 12 years ago now, because they trusted me. I never said to anybody, don't worry, the interest rate's 32%, but in 6 months you'll get refinanced, which is all nonsense. But I think realistically, we can say to some of the people that are coming in fresh with the higher interest, listen, there's a chance we'll see interest come down, because certainly no matter who becomes president in 2024, they're going to have to address inflation and its interest rates. But as to the point Jeff made, that if your $30,000 flip, there's no lease on earth that can happen. Nobody's credit's that good to have them dump that on top of them. The ROI doesn't make any sense. So yeah, it's definitely there. We can't ignore it. We have to be smart about keeping their cars running. And we just have to hope at some point, and this is not political, guys, I swear, we just need to find a regime that will understand that inflation is the most silent tax on everybody and the worst, and try to get that thing down. Because I don't even think we've seen the worst effects yet. Don't forget, everybody on the show, I know you're all smart dialed in, that so much money was doled out during the pandemic that a lot of people in America, I'm not sure exactly how Canada handled it, had a ton of money stashed in the bank. It's like, great, I'm not going to work and look at all the money I've got. Well, not only is that gone, but the credit card debt has ballooned to a point that would make an economist jump out a window. So yeah, are we feeling it down here? We are. We have to be realistic about bolstering service. We have to be smart, much smarter with our salespeople about how they explain things and realistically assess what a customer can do and afford. And that's really the only answers I have. I wish I had a better answer, but
Larry,
it's really zero.
You're right,
Larry,
spot on.
If we go back to what I was saying about the pandemic caused a lot of our issues moving forward. We overlisted cars because the dealership said they could, and people were lining up paying $30,000 for a $20,000 Corolla. It was just asinine, because what happens now, as Jeff is saying, we have people that are 100 to 200% over list on debt, and we put as dealers 48% of the population into subprime. 48% is now subprime. It doesn't, and it's not because of their credit history. It's because the negative equity in their vehicles.
Peter, can I throw an idea back at you? You've got what's left of my brain. We've constantly seen instances where people have overstepped in terms of value commensurate to a market, right? Does everybody remember when a big thing was used car leasing and all those banks went out of business? We've seen this. What frightens me is, okay, you may have to keep somebody in their car a little bit longer. It happens. But what's so scary is the new people coming into the market that are $350 a month buyers who can't afford twice that. And then you throw the possibility of how long the UAW, strike may be on.
Yeah.
That's what's so frightening, because the re-enhancement of the market, the fact that you've got new people coming in is disappearing. And by the way, I shouldn't even discuss this because I keep revealing that I'm a grumpy old white guy. But a lot of people younger than me don't care if they drive or not. They don't care if they have a car. So I don't know about you guys. I couldn't wait to get my car. I bought an old 69 Grand Prix. Man, I thought I was the king of the hill. So if you're combining younger people who don't necessarily want a car, middle class and poor people that can't afford a car payment, and as my good and great friend Jeff Polo pointed out so correctly, people that would love to trade, but they're 30,000 flip. A little scary. You know what? Would it be okay, Ian, you're the tech on this? Could you put the suicide prevention hotline number on the screen? I think I'm starting to get the crash.
But Ian, you touched on something, and Larry, you expounded on a little bit, but it's all about retraining our people. I think what we need to do with these customers is take a longer term view of every customer that comes in. You have to be able to sit down and say, give me an assessment of where you're at now. What are the hot buttons for you going forward? Is it payment, or is it I just want to own a car? What is it? And then does it make sense for you now to buy a car or lease a car, or keep your car and work with our service department to make that car last longer until these rates come down, until prices come down? I mean, I think you're gonna have to build this bank of potential customers that they're not ready yet, but they're gonna be ready. But you got to just keep nurturing them and nursing them through their current situation and be sympathetic to it, because frankly, if the customer's going through it, so are all the employees. They're not immune to it either. They're all feeling the exact same pain, and a little bit of empathy is going to go a long way right now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to slow down and ask questions.
Let me throw this idea back at Doug. I tell a story in my classes all the time, and I swear it's true. That I got a customer and I sold them, and another salesman came in and said, "That's half my deal."
No.
I said, "I beg your pardon?" He said, "Yeah, I sold that guy." I said, "When?" "Well, 3 years ago, I leased him his car." I said, "When was the last time you spoke to him?" He says, 3 years ago. I guess I don't have to tell you he didn't get half that deal. But my point is, if we weren't thinking long term when the business was easy, if we weren't thinking long term when you could make money and not have these horrendous financial pressures, it's going to be a little trick. I mean, listen, I love it because I'm a trainer. John Locker loves it. He's a trainer. Peter Smith's an auditor. Doug does magic how he connects dots. But we all know, let me backtrack. Again, my brain starts to untangle itself. When you're a salesman, okay, and I always made sure I never had weird bad habits. I don't gamble. I don't do drugs. I'm not a drinker. Blah, 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 blah. I always had money in the bank. I'm not bragging. I always had money. But I saw guys that could have been good salesmen that were horrible because they were under such financial pressure. And every 3 seconds, you can take it. You're going to take it. I don't think, I mean, unless you're Tom Brady or you're an Olympic sprinter, most of us don't function at our best when we're under pressure. And financial pressure, other than if you're dying, is the worst pressure. Breaks up more marriages, screws up more relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So you now have people who in the good times weren't smart enough to say, let me nurture this guy, let me ask him for repeat referral, let me make the service appointments. It's a little scary to think that now, when all of a sudden they were making $20,000 a month, and by the way, do we all know car salespeople? If they made $20,000 a month, they were spending $32,000. They figured the gravy train is never going to pull.
I have to add a question to this comment. Do any of you know any dealers that are in trouble right now?
Nope.
No, nobody knows. So right now it's funny because as Larry mentioned, living is easy. There's a song, Larry, I think it's by the Urban Ninjas at one point, summer. No, I don't know whoever wrote it, but summertime and the living is easy. So we're in the middle of summertime right now, and we're talking about it, and we're all trying to say to people, guys, it's summer. It's good. The living is easy, but it's not going to be, and it can't be sustained. Rates are not going down for the next little bit. They're even talking about going up again. Usually when they raise rates, and rates in the U.S. and Canada have almost, I think they've almost, yeah, they've gone up exponentially. And in the old days, you would do that and we'd be in a recession. And we'd be in trouble. I think there'd be people on the street. Well, there's people on the street in every city like they've never seen it before, but that's a different reason. However, the best example I can give is a friend of mine who's worked for me 3 different times. I brought him into the business. I think he's a brilliant salesman, a dynamic guy. He's right now in F&I. He bought tickets to the Singapore Grand Prix, the F1. And he went to Singapore with his brother, and I think he's going somewhere else because Asia got a lot more other things too. But he's sitting in his seat, and the dealer group he works for, he's sitting right in front of him. The Porsche Cup is on, and what's right in front of him? There's a Porsche 911 from his dealer group, sponsored, with the owner of the group driving in it. Now, good for him. The point being is it's so good right now. This guy flies to Asia for the weekend to race cars. Yeah. And he deserves it. But it's so easy right now. And this is the same guy that has the 200,000 square foot Toyota store too. Mm-hmm. When it changes, Larry, you're going to be busier than you know what to do with, and you might want to start turning people down. John, you're going to start turning people down. Pete, you're going to turn down jobs. A to Z Sync, the massive conglomerate it is going to say, you know what, we can't handle anymore because, all we can find to hire ex-car salespeople. It's coming, but nobody wants to listen because the living is easy. How do we get them to listen?
Well, but the key thing is,
who has the highest instance of traffic accidents and traffic deaths? Is it 45-year-olds or is it young drivers? It's young drivers because they don't want to hear that that the possibility of mortality, might be if they drive too fast or if they drive drunk. Dealers have always been by nature kind of like, I know it'll be okay. I'm not worried about it. We'll make it up later. So it's not the easiest group of people to impart logic to. Well, John, am I wrong?
No, you're
You're right. Can I just add something to that? So,
John, by the way, if Jeff Polo was right and you turn people down, tell him to call me. I'll take everybody.
Yeah, no problem, Larry, and vice versa. Okay.
I ain't turning nobody down. I got Peter Smith as an assistant wearing that pink shirt. Are you crazy?
Yeah, there you go.
Peter does have the nicest shirt there is.
So what I was going to say is, working in the field of psychosocial rehabilitation, the program that we had,
for you to say.
right, the program that we had available for people recovering from psychiatric illness involved having to want to be in the program. It wasn't just housing. There were rehabilitative services associated with it. You can't just have housing if you're not taking the other. The point I'm trying to make here is, from a humor perspective, is, listen to this. How many psychiatrists would it take to change the light bulb? Just one. But the light bulb has to want to change.
So, exactly. So I can just jump in here. One of Doug's colleagues this morning posted a great post, and it was in client success. There are two key pillars to achieving success: value and relationship, and how to involve that in the dealership perspective. Now, it's the dealers right now, and it's being said over and over and over again. They see value as a cost, not as a benefit. They just look at it and say, how much is it going to cost me? Not how much is it going to benefit me. And until they can get over that hurdle, they can never build relationships. It doesn't matter with their teams, with their clients, or with their vendors. And they have to change that mindset to move forward with any success. And it's a delicate balance, but it has to change.
Well, my view on it, though, is a little different. I would say we should be spending a lot more time as dealers and as industry experts really celebrating the customer. That customer who comes in despite all the issues. Listen, I know my inflation, food inflation, everything else is going up. I know interest rates are up. I know I owe too much on my car, but I still need to change. Can you help me? And I think a lot of that is more about, let's spend a lot more time talking to the customer and less time showing them what he possibly or she possibly could buy. Let's spend more time going, yeah, okay, we appreciate you giving us an opportunity. What's the situation? And I think that's really what is going to change versus I want to buy it right now, right?
Yeah, I have to say that Larry brought up something that sparked something in my mind. He talked about the age of people in car accidents. Gentlemen, what do you think? This is not a leading question. Just a quick answer from each of you. What is the average age of a general manager in a car dealership today? What do you think, Peter?
55.
Peter?
I would say 41.
Larry?
I'd say 40.
I'd ask John, but John disappeared. Ian?
I would say 35.
Okay. And it's very funny. I agree with that 40 range. And here's the thing. The 55-year-olds have been through at least one downturn, maybe two. The 35, 40-year-old has not. They were selling in 2008, and they made the meteoric rise. And frankly, I know a lot of businesses did really well in 2009 because they found ways to finance people. Just like I know people in LA that bought a house in Texas in their wife's name 3 or 4 years ago, and stopped payments on their house in California in their name, and life's good now. So they can do that. So if somebody has not really experienced tough times, what are they going to do? John, I don't know if you heard what I said. What do you think?
I did. I have to take a bio break, but I did hear what you said.
What do you think the average age is of a GM?
It's around the 40-ish.
Yeah. So can you imagine somebody, hey, picture a 40-year-old pilot of an airline, which is not that old or young, but who has only been flying big airliners for 4 years. What are they going to do when they get that one giant airdrop in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean versus, I hate to say it, the 55-year-old that hit 3 or 4. Same thing here. Now this is a challenge. Would you not agree?
Totally agree. Totally agree.
The other thing that I think we should remember is how much authority do many general managers actually have to make decisions?
Yeah. Yeah. That's phenomenal because many GMs now, in my opinion, are basically caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with you there, Jeff. And the other issue with that is how many dealer principals or dealership owners will actually engage with their businesses.
Well, I think that depends on the size.
Problem.
That depends on
Hey,
the size
Jeff,
of the business.
Can I go back to the beginning of what you just said?
Yeah.
And how many of these young guys that are sales flashes are tied in with fixed operations?
Yeah.
How many of them tie in and understand the importance of service, particularly now when so many people, as we said, can't afford to get a new car, have to fix their car?
Yeah.
And by the way, Peter pointed out that even Teslas need oil changes.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the volume of calls or the volume of inquiries or even the overall volume in service in normal times, when you look at that average ownership term of a car, say it's 5 to 7 years historically, if that extends to 9 to 10 years, you're going to see an increased volume, but you're also going to see hyper competitiveness on the service side, because we all know as cars get farther and farther out of warranty, they tend to lose that business to the third party. They don't tend to retain that business. So that customer who historically maybe changed a car every 3 to 5 years might trade it now 7 years in. They may not have gone to the dealership in 2 or 3 years, right?
Here's a stat that was produced the other day, was that 70% of all car buyers will never return to their selling dealership again.
What's that number from?
There's 55% of people will leave the dealership and never return here to the brand unless it is a warranty claim.
Mm-hmm.
So the focus in the importance of creating that relationship and bringing value back to the dealer is so important, and maintaining that relationship for future business. Otherwise, we're dead in the water.
Well, maybe we can ask Larry a question there. You have a high turnover. What's the mean average tenure for a salesperson in 2023? Like, how long does a salesman last today in a dealership?
It depends strictly, Ian, on how dialed in the management is. I got booked to I just left in Milford, Connecticut. You might have seen the picture on LinkedIn. I got a ton of people. It's a new store, and I'm going to Nashville and Florida to do training and recruiting sessions. If you have good management, if they nurture people, they can stay. I'm doing a Toyota dealer, and I got 5 people a year ago. All 5 are still there. And there's places where I go and they pay me, and a month later they need people again. So I think now more than ever, if you don't have managers that know how to nurture, you don't know managers that know how to make you feel part of the team, there. And I'm sorry I'm not giving you that answer, but I never believed in those median numbers because there's such a variance in management styles and cohesion between dealerships and other dealerships. But I'm telling you, more than ever, you got to understand when you get to work, you got to build a team, you got to forge a team, you got to make people want to work with you. But listen, can I turn you on the Larry Feldman phenomenon? I have one goal. I get people on either I get on people's shows like you fine gentlemen, or I have my own show and I basically torture people and make fun of them. Then they hang up and call me and go, "That was really fun. Why don't you torture me again?" I understand that people want to they want to get salient comments, but they want to have a little fun. Guys, Doug, Pete, John, Jeff Polo, Ian, when I got into the business, tell me if there's any way you disagree. I had one goal. What kind of money can I make?
Right.
I wasn't as touchy-feely, and the people around me weren't as touchy-feely.
Right.
So if this is the environment we're in, we have to adapt to it. We have to make it make sense. And we have to understand. I was on a program, Doug, with Brian Kramer, and he said he did a study, and it was like 35 to 40,000 to replace somebody. This is not a nation study in terms of what you lose, what it really costs to retrench. Now I'm not charging person 35,000 per person, but if that's the acknowledgement, why the heck wouldn't you do everything you can to keep right? Ian used music earlier. How about the old soul song? It's cheaper to keep her. When you look at what divorce costs, maybe it makes more sense to buy her flowers once.
But Larry, it doesn't show up on the financial statement as a loss.
John, not only do I agree with you, but think how stupid that is, because every smart dealer, and there's plenty of dumb ones, understands it isn't necessarily what's on your statement, what isn't on. The missed opportunities certainly aren't a column. The people you didn't follow up on that you never saw before on the column, it only counts the money that came in.
Hey, look, you know, Jeff was looking for a solution to all of this, and John, and you made it clear, I mean, dealers are still rolling in cash. And we've talked about this in the past, but I think it probably needs to be addressed again, is perhaps they need to get a little bit more creative in how they're compensating their people. And let me tell you from a personal experience, you know, I spend months, years chasing clients and just repeatedly just staying in front of them in hopes that at one point someday they end up reaching out. And invariably they do. They reach out and say, you know what, you've been reaching out and I'm ready to talk now. The same logic's going to work with customers now. And I think the dealerships, if they are in fact rolling in cash or they're doing well to some degree, but maybe they need to reward behavior and reward the long-term outreaches so that the salespeople are compensated, they're still developing, but they're still, you know, there's a reason for me to come to work every day, and you will see the fruits of your labor, trust me, down the road. And they need to educate them along those lines, because right now, that's what it's going to take. The people are not going to come in 30 grand tipped and say, let's go. And you're not going to sell them a car right away. And they're not going to come in and say, yeah, I'll swallow a 780 payment. That's not going to happen. So you're going to need to have to educate and spend the time, but make it so it's worthwhile for your team. So that, to your point, Larry, develop a culture that says, hey, I'm going to make it worth your while. I'm going to develop you. There's no need to leave. It's not, the grass is not greener over there. In fact, it's just spray painted green, but underneath it, it's all brown. Trust me, this is where it needs to be. And they need to just get creative that way.
It's not just financial, though. The dealer, I'm getting a lot of ads placed for techs that say 4-day, in some places 3-day work week available. It's very appealing. How can at this point, this is just me talking, how can at this point any dealership, and I saw it plenty that don't, not offer at least one Saturday off a month for salespeople? That's the kind of thing that it's worth maybe 10 times more than a financial.
Or like I said, we have a group that's only open 5 days a week. Every employee gets a Sunday, Monday off. That's the way it works. I mean,
that's the keys, I think, to making people feel good enough about themselves and a part of something. Peter, you were asking me something. I'm sorry.
The one of the things that is being discussed right now is corporate culture, and building a corporate culture that people want to come to work. They want to be part of that business. They want to be engaged in that business. If we engage our employees, then they're going to be that much more productive. I've worked both here in North America and in Europe in the business. And in Europe, we had flexible time where we had to work 40 hours a week, but we got to pick the hours we wanted.
Peter, could I add a light to what you just said? How about if we emphasize non-corporate culture?
Yeah.
Because every big group that either I deal with or that I haven't had the pleasure dealing with, it's corporate, makes me vomit. You got to talk to 97 different people, no matter what's right or wrong. There has to be 42 discussions. And people get so discouraged, they stop participating or lower the level of participation because they feel it's empty. Right? It's the old thing. I argue with City Hall.
Right. So it like in one of the most productive dealership growths that I've ever had, I turned around and created a 4-day work week. Because people like has been said, they want that 3 extra days to be with their family. They want. Josh Taylor said, "Hey, what's the benefit of having benefits if you can't use them?"
Right.
And if you're working all the time and you can't take that time off to go to the doctor, why have benefits?
No, it's so true. You work to live, you don't live to work. And unfortunately, dealers have always adopted the latter and not the former. And they need to really understand working is a means for me to have a life and enjoy things. So let me have that.
Exactly. And with that, we have the opportunity to restructure this business during this time where we can take the money that we've made over the last 3 years and truly invest it back into our businesses and back into our people and and ride the storm that's coming out, because it's going to take about 3 to 5 years to ride it out. There's a number of people on here that have been in this business for decades, and we've been through the 17, 18% interest rates in cars, where a subvented rate from a manufacturer was 14%.
Well, and I think John hit it on the head. John, when you said, that the light bulb has to want to, what we
Yes.
have to do, that the industry has to do, is show the light bulbs that wanted to and show the results that they got. And maybe others will now be more open to listening, because desperation is going to come to them, and they're going to have to say, well, he's making it okay. How did he do it?
Exactly. You're going to have the people that understand that growth happens outside the box. And we're going to have to develop new ideas to bring that growth to what we have and what we currently can deal with in our situational awareness right now.
Okay. I completely agree.
What's the sentence that you're going to write?
Gentlemen, thank you. That's the show. We should probably have an advisory day, because I think we could talk all day on this. Who needs to earn a living? Man, we just got to talk. I just sent an email to everybody there if you could send back your 2 cents to us on a statement. We want to do this, and then once we get it, Ian's going to make it look super pretty, because he's just so creative. And guys, I thank you for being part of the show, always part of the panel. I think together we can certainly make the automotive industry better. And I think we hit a nail on the head today that many people don't know what's going to happen to us.
Yep. Thanks very much. Have yourself a great week and a great month end. And send me some details.
All right.
I love these.
Thank you, everyone.
You guys be good.
Yep.
Oh la la. What?
Thanks for joining us. It was a great show, and follow us anywhere you would like on your favorite podcast, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and of course on our YouTube, or subscribe to